Hi, I'm Scott Fisk. I am the founder and CCO, Chief Creative Officer of iAiAM, IA, the independent artist. What you're watching here are some of our recorded live events. We go live every single week. We are artist for artist, artist to artist, completely unscripted. If you'd like to know more about what we're doing, or if you'd like to sit in on one of the lives and who knows, maybe be interviewed yourself, then tap the link that's in our description. We'll see you inside. And tonight we are meeting with, well, he's also a podcast host. So I'm really excited about that because it's about somebody who's about to have a get together with us who understands this language, who knows this playground, but not just the podcasting. He's also a producer, life science. He's a creative director. He's got a strong backbone in agency and all of that. And tonight we're getting ready to unpack his story. And that's what's really wonderful about these Spitball sessions. Spitball is kind of like a part one. It's an opportunity for us to know our community members better. And we leave with a sense of knowing just that. And we have Bob in here right now in the green room, and I am inviting him in to our conversation so we can get this going on the road. And always our conversations are unscripted. We just let them live and breathe on their own. We find that just setting up like family just works really great. And here we are. Hello, Mr. Raynor. How are
Scott.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's the weather where you are?
It's chilly today. It was like 80 degrees yesterday. It's chilly and rainy today in the 50s. It's going to be apparently nice again tomorrow, warm and sunny. So this is spring in Pennsylvania. I'm in Philly suburbs. So
I love it.
yeah,
I am ready for 80-degree temperatures. We have not had those yet. We've had some 60s. I mean, I'm up here in Vermont, and I'm not going to say I was outside with a heat gun trying to melt anything, but you know,
yeah.
sometimes you are.
Just wishing March weather.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you very much for doing this with us. I know that Thursday nights can be kind of a busy time for you. So thank you for shuffling things around.
Of course.
Yeah, and like I was talking in the intro, Spitball is just a nice opportunity to learn about you and to unpack your story. Mm-hmm. So if you don't mind, let's get that going. And I guess I just wanted to start this off with, start us off when you were young. Were you that inquisitive kid? Were you the one that was always busy pulling things apart? Were you a studier? What were you? What was your creative jam that set you on this initial trajectory?
Man, got to go back a ways, but yeah, I had a love of drawing and art. That was kind of my thing growing up. I was always, a friend of mine, probably 6th, 7th grade, something like that.
Yeah.
He was, he liked to draw, and I started, I was interested in that, picking that up. I was always into sports when I was a young kid. Hockey and football, being in the Philly area, that kind of comes with the territory. Yeah. But yeah, I think in my 8th grade yearbook, I was everybody has a what you're going to be most known for, or what you're most known for, and mine was most known for getting in trouble drawing in class, because maybe drawing in my notebook or something that.
And it's really funny you say that. Just to get in a little spin, I have a daughter and a son, and they're still in elementary school, and I know that you have kids that are younger too. One of the things that I did, like you, my teacher allowed me to draw in school. I think it was like an ADD thing before we knew what ADD was, but it wasn't necessarily that as much as it was a busy mind. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that I tuned out and I just drew pictures and all that. It was more like cross-hatching and just a little scribbling, because it would give me a spot to sit so my ears could open up and listen. Is that kind of like what was for you, or were you just totally off, Huck Finn stuff?
No, I think it was just something that I liked doing. You know, whether it was drawing, I used to collect these the Marvel like baseball cards, but they were like Marvel characters, and
Right on.
I used to like to try to draw, comic book covers. Like, I liked collecting Superman and Batman covers. Like, I was of age when the Death of Superman comic came out, and the Nightfall Batman series. That was like early '90s, right?
Yeah.
So I was always trying to do something creative. My family, it comes from music, so there's a lot of just music and the arts that I was kind of surrounded with growing up. And so in high school, I definitely gravitated towards um, the art program there. I had a wonderful art program, wonderful art teacher, who I was I was close to, and she was a wonderful teacher, and I spent as much time as I could in the art room, doing all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
whether it was painting or still life or linoleum prints or just whatever it was.
Linoleum prints. As soon as you said that, I remember that. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but we were doing it too, and
Hmm.
my daughter would say, way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and I'd be like, yeah, way back with the dinosaurs. Yeah.
Yeah, my son, when he was younger, had asked me like, "Daddy, did you still use candles when you were young?" I'm like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
we put them on the Christmas trees.
yeah, right,
That's so good. That's so good. When the power goes out, yes, we do candles.
right, right."
Yeah.
But no, we didn't live by candlelight. I'm not that old, so.
No.
But yeah, I just that was and that kind of set me on the trajectory to a career where I knew I wanted to pursue art. I wasn't big on math. I would was bored out of my mind when it came to like biology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I had a technical brain, so like
Mm.
I liked physics, and I was good at math, but it wasn't my favorite. And obviously with art, but then I was like, I don't want to be the starving artist. How can I, how can I have a career in the arts? Because that's what I would prefer to do. And
Yep.
there's a lot of great art schools in the Philly area. And my teacher was like, "Hey, have you ever thought of graphic design?" She's like, "You can be a graphic designer, and you can still have your art, and you can work for companies or agencies and just doing all kinds of stuff." And so I was like, "Oh, cool!" Like, and I legitimately had never even heard of like graphic design. This is like
Yeah.
1997, 96, and so I started looking into it and applying to schools. I applied to schools mainly as like a business major, really, and then um, a couple art schools I applied to for their um, graphic program, and then I ended up applying to Drexel as a business major, and then um, realized that they had a graphic design program, and I
Nice.
was like, well, I'll switch my major, apply, and I'll go as a graphic designer, and if I feel like it doesn't work out, I can switch, as opposed to going to a school that was like a all arts school, right?
Yep. 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 I
And
think it's really important, to your point there. I mean, what was really nice is being in a spot that offered both things, because it also gives you the opportunity to cross train. Because we do know creatives out there that don't have any of the other things to go along with it, right? You got to know business. You got to know business. You got to know how to read a floor. There's a lot. There's this whole thing, not to sound stereotypical. I can say what I want, I guess, because I'm a creative. But, maybe we're flighty, or we're like, oh, we go with the wind. No, we don't. A lot of us don't, So, no.
yeah, and so I ended up lucky that Drexel. I ended up at Drexel. I got in, and they have a premier graphic design program. It turns out they're known to be an engineering school, but they've got an incredible design program, and they offered co-op for that's their big thing, doing the paid internship co-ops that they set up. So I got to have some real world experience where I would take a whole semester and not even be in class. I would be working.
Mhm.
So it was pretty cool, and loved it, and have just gone on to be in graphic design, and my career settled in the pharma industry, because that's kind of
Yeah.
like the tech industry out west is like the pharma industry out in the east, and so
Mhm.
um, that's where I'm at.
Well, what was that like? Like, you went into school and you're like, because I don't know the first thing about pharma, so I'd love for you to be able to speak to that a little bit. But what was that like going from school and then dropping right into that? Was it like you were already being groomed to go into that line? I mean, where did that?
No, Drexel. I mean, back then it was very much graphic design was you were trained traditionally. There's art, painting classes. I took, like fine art painting. There was drawing. There was math for design. There was, a lot of stuff. And then, they didn't even really, but it was more print based, right? So this was before even Web 2.0 was like just maybe starting. So web design was a separate major altogether. There was like you had web design, graphic design, and then you had film and video, and there were three separate things. And now the lines have blurred so dramatically between those things.
Yeah.
And I've done more web design, or just as much web and digital design as print. But yeah, it wasn't like they were training us for, pharma or a specific sector. It was, very well rounded. I felt like I had a good grasp on a lot of things coming out of school. So.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I think about like when you were just mentioning all that, I do remember when it was very much compartmentalized, and you'd ask somebody, who are you? And they'd be like, I'm a webmaster. And that would sound like something out of Dungeons and Dragons. Like, well, I remember having a webmaster when I launched my automotive website because I needed one, because I just didn't have I was still very tactile, in terms of pen and ink, which I still am. I mean, you never forget where you come from, but it's about, then I had my design software. I needed to know how to do all those things because we need to be able to cross train. And when you're running an agency, you need to be able to wear more than one hat. Myself, I'm different in the regard of I've always been an independent artist. So you have a whole bunch of working partners that freelance back and forth, for
Right.
skill sets. But there's still something inherently good about not a jack of all trades and master of none, but it's still really important to understand that I've used it before. It's like you got your hub with all your spokes, but if a spoke falls off, that wheel's still got to be able to roll,
Yeah.
So now it's really nice. Like, maybe I'm sure you could speak to that it's nice that if you need to make a tweak, well, you'll just jump in there and you'll correct in real time, until you've got exactly what you want.
Yeah, I think it's good to, you have to nowadays have to have an understanding. You don't have to be able to do, but you have to be able to think, and you have to be able to speak different languages in that
Sure.
regard. Like you have to be able to speak the language of a developer and a web designer and a videographer. Like you have to have a base understanding of a lot of that stuff, even if you can't do it yourself. But I feel like I learned more outside of school, after school, than I did in school, right? You get out there and you're like, spent a whole lot of, it was funny, my career trajectory was where I was most of the time the only creative at the places I worked at. And so I had to figure out a lot of things myself and teach myself a lot of things. YouTube is a great a great educator, because if you have something, I want to do this effect, I want to make this thing move in a certain way, or I want to, make this, how do I get this website to do what I want? And you just
That's
look
right.
it up and you figure it out. And you know what? To the thing where I was cross training, when I got to the point where I was managing designers and they would come in and, we weren't just a team that handled the print design and that kind of stuff. Like we were doing emailers and websites and all that stuff. And so because I taught myself, I looked for people that, you didn't have to have pharma experience when you came in, but you had to have the spirit, a can-do spirit, and be open to learning new things. And so I would cross-train my team on how to code an email, right? I was of the mindset where I wanted to be able to make it work. Like I wanted to be able to see not only what I was designing, but also have it function. And I got satisfaction out of making something function.
Well, cohesive, right? Function, cohesive. So like when you're talking about like all these different deliverables, for lack of a better term, I mean, that's what I would call it. But I love when I would work for a large organization, but if they had I worked with a lot of events, automotive event. So It's about the lanyard, match the sticker on the window, match the hero card, match the poster, match the drag and drop on the landing page,
Mhm.
match the t-shirt, match the thermostat, the heat that you were putting out. And that's what's really nice, like what you were just saying, the can-do spirit with your people is the willingness to say, let's go, and there's something really nice about the willingness to fail too, because I feel like, and you can tell me if you see it a different way, that there in our day and age now, there's a real highlight reel culture, that real being real. And we know that it's not. The real magic is almost like the Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain, pulling the levers, making sure things don't stick. You know?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm actually in the middle of reading a book called Failed It.
Oh, cool.
Have you read it? I don't know.
No, but
I have like a book list that I'm trying to get through, that I'm trying to push myself to, because I tend to not be a book reader, and I feel like I need to do that to kind of help my brain a little bit. But it's cool. It's like, just not being afraid to have the, there's certain levels of failure. There's the catastrophic failure. There's the happy failure. There's, all different levels to it. And it's really just permission to not be upset with yourself, because you learn so much more by failing.
Yeah, I remember somebody telling me, it's kind of like school. Like, you don't learn how to swim by reading a book about it.
Right.
You kind of got to get out and swim. You ever Theodore Roosevelt, The Arena? I love that. Have you ever read The Arena?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, you want to watch it. You want to watch it. You want to read it. Because I don't necessarily refer to it a lot in some of my posts, but maybe you've seen some of my stuff where the game is not won up in the bleachers. The game is won down on the field. The game is won in the fumble or stepping up to the plate, striking out. There's a 60 or 40% chance you're going back to the dugout. You're still willing to go up to that plate and tap off your cleats. You're planning the home run. And even if you don't, you choke up at the bat. That's just like learning what we're doing here. Every day, be willing to go up to the plate. And I find it kind of liberating to fail in public. Not like, hey, look at me, I fumbled again. But it's about that willingness to just, some people will never come out of the bleachers. They've got pockets full of advice for you, but unless they've made the game, you get it?
Yeah. Yeah. I just saw a clip of, like, I think it was Tom Brady, where he was about how, he wasn't the fastest guy. He wasn't the biggest guy or whatever, but he prepared more than anybody else. And
yeah,
it was all a mental game to him. And I think a lot of the great people are, they can have the mental fortitude to push through those mental blocks, right? Where you think that you can't, the people that say that they can more often, what was the saying? It was, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So,
yeah.
It's that kind of thing, right? And just being willing to continue to be consistent and showing up.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I sometimes I speak about, like, right now, I call this my chapter 3. This is my legacy work. It's about wanting to do something that's absolutely not linear. I haven't started anything brand new since I was in my early 30s. And as far as my kids are concerned, that was 500 years ago. Yeah. But there's something really exciting in saying, okay, I can take inventory on what I've learned along the way and the relationships that you have along the way, and taking what I've learned and building my own company and using that to flagship this, but bringing people in a communal way. Because even when I worked with clients, I called them partners. I've always referred to them as a partner, because there's this beautiful relationship that happens when you look at it that way, in terms of you are both at the table. They're hiring you. They're hiring Bob because you possess a skill set that they don't have. But it's also that humble posture of walking in saying, they could have also hired somebody else, so I want to remember this thing, and bringing that into this space. So, like, How is that, if I can spin that right back toward you, when you have your working clients, partner, for whatever you'd like it to call, how does that work with you? How do you onboard?
To me, it's all about the relationship. It's all about that connection that you have with people. It's easier for me to keep a client than it is to get a client.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. But I've had so many people that I've worked with in my life have said that, everybody needs a Bob. Everybody needs, they're like, oh, we can do it. We got Bob. He can take care of it. And so I've like, it's not to sound braggadocious, but
I'm not getting that at all.
I've heard so much in my life from people that I've worked with. And so, I take pride in making sure that I'm taking care of the people that I work with and work for, and make sure that they feel as the most supported that they possibly can, that they have that trust in me that, I'm going to show up and help them with whatever they need and do what I say I'm going to do.
That's right. Yeah, that is playing the long game. Because we can see a lot of people out there, not like used car salesmen or whatever, but hit them hard, hit them once and be done and be on your way.
Right.
No, I don't want to just play an inning with you. I want to play a season with you, and maybe next season we can sign another contract and keep going. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's not about trying to, get as much money as you can and get out. There's as I'm coming into my mid 40s here, it's like, there's a sense of stability that you want to try to establish, and especially as a creative in a world where you never know what's going to happen next, from layoffs to whatever else is going on out there. And I've got I'm not trying to please. How do I want to say this? I think when we're younger and we're in our career, you're trying to get up that ladder as quickly as you can, and maybe you're not as genuine as you should be. And it's something that we learn over time, that the more genuine you are, the more people are attracted to you and want to work with you. And so now, like, I'm just trying to, my kids are young adults now. They're in their early teens, 16 and 14. And it's like, I feel more of a responsibility than ever to give them an example that they can take into their adulthood, of like, this is how you treat people. This is how you run a business with integrity. This is how you provide for your family. And so, I take that into consideration with any of the work I do.
Sure. No, I think that's the most important work you're doing is being a daddy.
Yeah.
No, really.
Favorite job.
Yeah, I love it. I love it too. I've got a son that's all grown up. He's 27 and married, but I also have a almost 10 and 12-year-old boy and girl. And they are sideways sometimes, and you're like, oh yeah, they can get that way, and they're growing. And I say to people, well, when you feed them, they grow. It's kind of like a plant. You got to water them. But they are watching and they are asking questions. And my daughter is very much a creative, and it's about really fostering that. Not everybody feels like there's time for those types of things, but being able to be open to that. And I know enough about you that I also know that your wife is in music. She's a music teacher. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you have very much a creative family. Like, the house literally sings.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting, to be able to just live and breathe this world, because probably your kids might say, a lot of my friends don't have families like this. So they might think, wow, what's it like in the Raynor house for a day?
Yeah, I think our situation is unique with the musical talent of my wife. My and it's funny because her family, her parents and siblings, whatever, are about as tone deaf as you can possibly be. and she ended up with the musical ear and the amazing talent at the piano. And, that's been fed into my daughter and has just 10x'd, it's incredible what she's accomplished in her young life so far. And so it's cool to see, but the musical side really comes from my family as well. My mom was a singer, was a cantor at church, involved in the church, and always singing
Nice.
weddings and that kind of stuff growing up. And my grandfather was an entertainer up almost until the day he passed. He was in his 80s. He would go out and perform at the Aronimink Country Club. He had like a fan club, but he was an entertainer. He was a South Philly entertainer in his young days. Hanging out. He was like, Rat Pack of Philadelphia kind of a thing, right? And then my dad's has been in a band his whole life. So like there's, family's been surrounded by music and, creativity and that kind of stuff. So I feel fortunate that I've been able to share that with my kids.
Well, it's obviously seems to be very generational. And if that's always been a part of your landscape, well, it's very familiar and it's normal. And isn't every family like this? And it'd be like, no, it isn't. But it's really wonderful that, your family fanned your flames when you were coming up, and you're doing the same with your kids.
Mhm.
You talked about your mom singing in church. My dad, you'd put him way in the back. You didn't want to be anywhere near him in church because he was horrible,
Right.
horrible. And that's when it's like, Dad, just lip sync. Please just lip sync. Just lip sync. But he's like, no. And yeah, it's pretty cool. That's really cool. So do you are your kids, you said your daughter, she's singing. What about your son? Is he following in those tracks as well? Or has he got something else that he's in?
Yeah, he definitely has. He's very good with the pencil. He's the kind of kid that can teach himself anything. And that kind of started during the pandemic. He got really big into magic and Legos and speed cubing. Like he taught himself how to solve a Rubik's Cube and could solve it in like 30 seconds. He was big into crafting and building. He would always watch these videos where he would build a Spider-Man web shooter out of cardboard and string, and he would come asking me if I needed the spring out of my pen, and he would, with magnets and all this stuff. And he was, 8 years old doing this stuff, 7 years old.
That is so awesome. He and my son are cut from the same tablecloth. I mean, not the same cloth, the same tablecloth. Because isn't that wonderful? I mean, he's very much, he can entertain himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now he just just this past week, he's about to go into high school next year, and he has to choose electives. And one of the electives he's interested in is they offer a graphic design elective. And he's like, I want to do graphic design. So he plays the saxophone, but now he's getting into the guitar. He's really, he's a martial artist. He's going to have a black belt soon. So he's an athlete and an artist at heart, maybe not so much on the musical side, but he's got his own path in music, I think.
Yeah, but he's willing to explore. He's willing to try different things. And if it ends up not being his thing, he still has it that it brings him joy.
Right.
And it's a beauty. And well, being in martial arts, my oldest, he never made it to black. He made it to brown.
Right.
But there's this self-care and there's this discipline that comes along with it that is applied to life in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just this thing that you're doing at a tournament. It's a lot of this that's going to carry you. It's a wonderful thing to be plugged into. You do that too, don't you?
I do. My wife and I do it, and my son. So he started when he was 5, and now he's 14. He'll be 14 in a couple weeks, and so he's ready to get his black belt. And then my wife just got her high red belt last week, or this week, I think, Tuesday night or Monday night. And then I'm a high green belt, so I was the last one to start. So I've been stuck on that for a little while, but yeah, it's a great way to exercise your body and exercise your mind. There's a lot of positive after every class. The sensei will talk about something, out in the world and how it relates to, a strong mind and non-quitting spirit. And so it's just like that reminder that, you have to work on both your mental and your physical health. And those are the most important things, and being consistent with whatever you do.
That's right. No, boy, that's so spot on, because I mean, I always find that, I'm not going to say creatives in particular, but I haven't met a creative that isn't as porous as a sponge. So we have to be very intentional with who we surround ourselves with, because we have this beautiful ability to absorb this stuff. So let's sure hope it's good stuff, right? Because it'll bleed into your creative work.
Yeah.
Stuck in your mind. So to be taught this by your sensei. So like when you guys go do this, are you guys doing this together as a family on the same night? Or is it
No,
different
we're
night?
all different nights now. So my wife and I, we were kind of going to the same class, and oddly enough, there's intermediate and advanced, and then my son is in the younger kids class. So he goes. I just was with him tonight. So we go Tuesday, Thursday nights. My wife goes Monday, Wednesday nights, and it's great. It's a great thing for all of us to be able to do it, but like to be able to do it as a family, even if we're not in the same classes. It's still something that we can enjoy together.
Yeah, I totally see you like moving the coffee table out of the room and sparring with your kid.
We did that during COVID when we weren't allowed to
I,
go. We were taking classes through Zoom or whatever it was. What's the Twitch or something like that? They set up a Twitch feed, and we had the punching bag at home and the foam floor, the whole nine, and we were moving things out of the way and doing it.
yeah,
And what a way to I don't know what we would have done if we didn't have that outlet
no,
at
that's
that
awesome.
time.
I could totally see you like walking in with like, I don't know, Eye of the Tiger playing on the cassette, on the Walkman, and like First Blood, like having the thing turned on. They're like, get away from me, Dad.
Yeah.
No, that's really great. That's really, really, and it's so important, my boy, he's very much a self-starter in that way that you could give him a stick and he'll go out. I live in the country. He has no problem finding things to do. And I really appreciate that, because he can get unplugged. And he loves building things. He loves crafting in his own way. So that's what Christmas looked like for him. We try to focus more on experiences over gifts. Not that there's anything wrong with gifts, but I like to try to shoelace in experiences as well. So we have stuff that just lives on beyond the gift. But when it came to gifting this year, it was like a robotic claw hand that he had to make, and transistor radio, a Bluetooth speaker, stuff like that. And, remote control car that wasn't just out of the box. You had to build the whole thing. Yeah, like those Lego kits.
Yeah,
Pretty
my son loves Lego kit. He was like 5, 6 years old and putting together this like 1,000-piece puzzles, and it's like, how do he just loved it, and that was a great way for him to be off an iPad or off the computer and work with his hands and use your brain. I feel like we're starting to get away from that, so it's super important to be able to log off, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's really, about a month ago, my girlfriend was in here. She's an early childhood special educator, and she talked to the importance of music, movement, play, imagination, and how boredom is an incredible superpower in kids nowadays. Not every kid, but don't know how to be bored.
Yeah.
Because they can go from thing to thing to thing. So I love that your children are plugged into these extracurricular vocations, learning discipline and all of that, because that's the exception, not the rule. But what's wonderful is being able to get your mind out there saying, I can do these things, right?
Right.
Because my kids have tablets too. But on the tablets, they both have Procreate, which I think is rad. So they're still doing these learning things, but they're also learning how to use their Procreate.
Right.
I appreciate that, because they're actually producing, consuming. You can watch something on television, these reality family channel things where, you're all but vicariously sitting on a park bench watching other kids on a swing set,
Mhm.
and but people like to watch this thing, and I'm like, wouldn't you want to be on the swing set also?
Yeah.
You know, but it's almost like a watch from the
Yeah, there was a lot of that before. It's funny because I just on the way home had a conversation with my son how they were talking on the radio about the host's son is a little younger and he doesn't want to buy him a video game system, and so what he likes to do is watch other people play Mario games. And my son was like, "Oh, that's me. That I used to like to do that when I was little. Watch somebody create a Mario level or something like that, or watch somebody talk about the Lego minifigures." And to the point where he wanted to make his 5 video of him at 5 years old, doing his own Lego set reviews and things like that. And so,
Yeah.
we try to make it so that they're using their creativities in different ways. And so that's why I never was upset about him watching the YouTube videos, because it felt constructive. He was learning how to make a craft. He was learning how to, put a Lego set together. He was learning how to do a magic trick. It always ended up being something that he would have to do physically and use their creativity, right?
Yeah, produce and stop film animation. I mean, those things it's all a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it takes discipline. It takes a long time to see it through. It's like, oh my gosh, I worked 4 hours for something that lasts 26 seconds. Yeah, but look how awesome that 26 seconds
Right.
was.
Yeah, now he's got a YouTube channel where he likes to do creative video edits of sport clips.
Nice.
And he's got he gets like thousands of views on these clips. I mean, he does better on YouTube than I ever could. So, he's got that creative brain in him. So,
Well,
just like with my daughter.
Oh yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really, and they're just not. They grew up with all this around them all the time. They didn't grow up with a webmaster like we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
Like, kids are webmasters using either GoDaddy or Wix or whatever. They're naturally, like my kids, messing around with Procreate at 9 years old. It's kind of like I can't tie my sneakers. My kids can tie their sneakers. I can do all these things, but I'm still in Velcro. No, but I mean, it's really nice that they're naturally producing something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool to see. It's cool to see. And I can't lie and say that I didn't have a bit of pride when I heard my son wanted to take a graphic design
That's awesome.
class. I was like, that's pretty cool. So, I can show him the ropes if he wants to learn.
That's so fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I remember, and maybe you've had these similar conversations. My daughter said to me, when I grow up, will I be an artist just like you? And I'm like, I'll tell you what, even if you aren't, remember where it brings you when you are there, because I've mentioned this in other interviews. There are a lot of people, a lot of grown-ups that don't have a special spot for themselves to go, a healthy outlet. And when we're left to our devices without a healthy outlet, we've seen people that where it can be quite tragic. So remember what self-care feels like. And if drawing is your delivery device, and I've bought her alcohol, she's got everything. I mean, her Christmas was alcohol markers, a retro 1960s drawing table. So she has it's all one piece. It's a table plus the chair all in one thing. It's chrome.
Oh, cool.
It's awesome. Good lighting. Marketplace. I love you. But it's like, if you can fan those flames and it's really comfortable too, but just get her in this spot where I believe in you, and remember how it makes you feel when you're there. And it's not just about being there doing this thing. Care about yourself while you're doing this thing. Have the right lighting, have the right headspace, and care about that project that you're on, because that was an hour of your time, and make that hour really worth it. She brings a clipboard up into bed because she might wake up at 6 a.m. She turns on her light and she'll just be in her bed drawing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
When your daughter's up, because she's probably up there going up through the octaves.
Well, now that she's a teenager, we have to shake her awake, because she's.
Oh, yeah.
But from the second she gets up, I mean, it's just singing in the shower. It's coming home. She, come home from a dance class at 9:30 at night and want to play the piano or want to dance some more. Just boundless energy, and that's been her MO from the time she was really little, waking up, and we always had a clavinova in the house, electrical piano, and 3 years old, she'd be sitting at the piano and playing. I came down one day and she's playing Ode to Joy, just
wow.
plinking out Ode to Joy on the piano, 3 years old. I said, Charlie, her name's Charlotte. We call her Charlie. I said, Charlie, where'd you learn how to play that? And she goes, oh, that song is on my seahorse. She had a seahorse that played soothing music, and it would, soft classical tunes. One of them was Ode to Joy. She could hear it, and now she has almost perfect pitch, and she's there at the piano playing it. It's like unbelievable. So, it's a cool thing to see.
That is really cool. Well, let me ask you another question that's almost like a bit of a pivot. You are also a podcast host of The Flame, and you and I met on LinkedIn, and we've maintained a nice friendship since. What was it that made you, and you're still doing your other stuff too, yes? Are you still right? Okay. What was it that made you want to do a pivot? So it's like, I was a little nervous bringing you on here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he does. Well, no, it's an interviewer doing an interview, and vice versa. Maybe one day we might spin this around. Yeah. But we're here right now doing this. And actually, thank you. It wasn't too long ago. You have this event called Friday 5, and you did a little ticket on what we're doing here. And I greatly appreciate that. So to that, what was it that made you say, I want to go flex this thing? I want to go explore this thing that you're doing right now, The Flame? So
I worked for an agency for about 12 years. I was I worked on the Pfizer account. Pfizer was one of their clients, so I worked on that account. I helped build up that account. And I worked there for 12 years. And in the agency world, people like to bounce around a whole lot, and you jump from one agency to another. But I didn't do that. I was there and I built something, and it was 2023, so things were just starting to, the layoffs. It's gotten worse now, but things were starting to happen, and so I was laid off, and luckily enough, I landed another job very quickly, but at another agency through a recommendation, which was great. And I was like, all right, this is awesome. Stars are aligning. It was called, the agency was called Dragons. I was like, oh, I'm a Drexel Dragon, kind of, it's fun. And I was there for 7 months and got laid off again in the span of 7 months. And that kind of hit me like a truck. Like I was like, hadn't ever thought about, I was like, found myself wondering, what happened? Why did it happen? Was it because, I did something wrong? I was not good, whatever it is, you try to figure out, you try to explain to yourself why things happen, even if it's just a business decision, right? The account is what it was changing. They didn't need a creative director anymore. But it still left me wondering, like trying to figure out, like, all right, now I got to start all over again, and feeling like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I was good at. I had never thought about it. I didn't have to think about it. I had some security for a long time. Thought I was going to have security with this other job. And so it was at the end of, it was in the middle of the summer. I got laid off in July, and it's tough to find a job anytime now, but like over the summer, it's even harder, right? So I just found myself looking for ways to find community, to educate myself, and I had found myself listening to a podcast by a guy named Jaime Cabrera, and he's a creative director, and it's a podcast for creative directors. And so he had a guy on named Rod Chant, who was a high level ECD around the world. And I was like, I'm listening, and I'm like, this is a guy that you ever like talk to somebody or meet somebody and you're like, man, I wish I could have worked with you. I wish I could have learned from you coming up, and that was, it caught me. And so, he also, is he like that? Is he like that? He is. and he was promoting, he does consulting and helping creatives with their careers. And, so I was like, all right, I have to do this. And meeting with him, and you talk about, building trust with somebody and having a personal relationship. I had spoken to him one time and told him, we were talking, and I was like, oh yeah, I have an interview. I think it's going to go well. I'll let you know how it goes. And I met him one time. I talked to him one time, and he took the opportunity to email me the next day, the day after he knew I was going to have this interview, and followed up and asked me and was like, hey, how did it go? Let me know how it goes. And I just was like, that's pretty cool. Like, he didn't have to do that.
No.
I had one session with the guy, and that was it, 1 hour session. And he took that and he did that. And I was like, yeah, that seems pretty cool. So I ended up doing a coaching session with him. And what came out of that was, building creative habits. One of his things is he starts his day every day with, he gets his coffee, he sits down with a pen and a book, and he writes or he draws. He's a creative director, but a copywriter at heart. And so he comes up with 20 ideas every day. And that's his
20
consistent every day. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be anything. It could be like an idea for a rock band, an idea for a t-shirt, an idea for a product, whatever it is. He just flexes his creative muscle. And part of that, the conversations we had were, ways to find creative outlet. And out of that was I thought to start a podcast where I can talk to people. I'd had a little bit of experience doing some podcasting and helping clients with podcasting, but I'm not a podcast listener. Like, I don't really listen to, I can't work and listen to a podcast because I'm like, oh wait, what did they say? What did they say? I missed that. I can't. And so I'm like, I don't even try. I just put music on in the background. But I wanted to find a way to help others and at the same time help myself, because that was also the first time I'd started, considering going to therapy, and I'd started going to therapy. And so I just wanted to find community and connect with people and try to help people, and maybe use it as a way to figure out what other designers are going through. Maybe I can make it a platform for creators who are out of work and maybe want to stand out in another way other than just your resume, and just find out how people keep their creativity alive when they're not, and how it ties into your identity as a you're in your career or in your personal life. And so that's that's how it started. And I just started it. I didn't overthink it.
No,
that was the idea.
You got out of the damn dugout, man.
Yeah, I just took a swing. And so that was the the long story of how it came to be. And that was October of 2023 or I started it. Trying to think. I started it, pretty much. Maybe I started it in 24, October 24, I think. And since then I've had 17 interview episodes, long form episodes. And then I decided last year to start to just put more content out there and try to do like a Friday 5 where it's just
I love that.
Thoughts, 5 minutes or 5 thoughts for the end of the week. And so that's where that came from. But I've been slacking on that lately because thankfully I've been busy with freelance work. Yeah, but that's where that came to be. And like, as if that wasn't enough, at the same time, I started my own solo agency, which is another thing Rod is real big on, is like, the big agency model is outdated. It's going away. And we see that with the holding companies, and we see people being laid off, and we're going to see a whole lot more independent artists and independent agencies and small, that's what we're seeing. And so when I saw you and saw what you were building, that's why I jumped on board right away, because it's just the community aspect, whether that's you're having conversations one-on-one through a podcast, or you're building a community, a website community. And I just was sick of the LinkedIn thing, even though so much of what I've built and
we're
come out of that. right?
We're
But
on it. We're on it, but it's very dodgy and it changes all the time.
yeah,
And I got to tell you, I mean, they're not paying us to talk about them. One day
no,
they will. You watch.
right.
One day they will. One day they will.
We just got to stop talking about them. Just can't.
Nah, but I mean, there's a
Don't
lot,
give it
right?
air.
No, there's a lot. There's Substack, there's Alignable, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's TikTok, there's blottity blottity WhatsApp, blah 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 threads, and every one of them is a different target. But what happens is it hijacks your nervous system, man. It's
It sure
hijacking your
does. It sure does.
and you see these people about, I'm a guru and I'm a pro and follow me, but what they're doing is they're selling you this vision, and that's how they're building their thing. They're selling this FOMO, and it feels like seventh grade forever. I would love to talk to Rod one day. Maybe I'll have him in here. I'll be like, hey, let's talk. I mean, I'm 25 years deep in all of this, right? There's always somebody that's 26 years. There's somebody that's 5 years deep. But what we're doing here, there's no headlines. There's no algorithm to prime. The only thing to prime is your nervous system. There's no follower count. No one gives a rat about that. And we control the narrative. Vibe lines are very important because there's no shortage of people that are up in the bleachers that want to tell you how to do something and they've never even done the thing because they read the book about how to swim,
Right.
but they haven't gotten wet, right? So I love that in here. And like what you were talking about, about why you chose Flame. I did this thing because for me, it was a calling that wouldn't stop calling. I did the other things. I need to do this now. And I love it because I think, and maybe you could say yes, it brings me back to the days of like a Rolodex, where in that Rolodex are your short list, for lack of a better. And we're playing a long game here. I'm getting to know you. I'm getting to know about your kids. People that watch this particular thing, they have this sense that they feel that they know Bob when this is over. They want to have a conversation with Bob, not because Bob did a paid ad and dropped it in their inbox like a spray and pray, because they got to just know what kind of makes you tick. And there's that vibration that comes off of that. And we have people in here, and as the community grows, even as Rod's community grows, everybody is a degree of separation, if not within the community. It's like you meet somebody that does licensing. I know somebody, they're right inside of the community, but even if I didn't, we're one degree of separation where I'm giving you a short list to go make that thing happen, because we're here for more than one thing. Maybe we're here because we like the entertainment. Maybe we're here because we want to network. Maybe we're here, and it's not linear, nor does it need to be.
Yeah, I think I've learned to value that community more. The more I become separated from being in an office. I spent 9-10 years going into an office every day, and I love working from home. It's the quality of life is so much better, but you miss out on a lot of that community, and especially when you're an independent artist or a solopreneur and you're working from home and you're by yourself a lot. There's a lot of opportunity for your mind to drift, to get distracted, to get into negative headspace. And so I'm eager to, whether that's digitally have community or try to find more in-person activities where I can be around creative community, is something that I definitely value. When you take it for granted when you're going in, back in the days when you're going into an office, you forget how much energy you can derive from the people around you, having good people around you.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you're saying these things, because when I talk about ownership and agency, what I remind myself is well, and I shouldn't say I remind myself, I always put it out there. iAiAM isn't Scott's. It belongs to everybody. I think of what I've done is I built something that I needed, and the door opens and Bob walks in, he needed it too. Dan walks in, he needed it too. I can keep going, right? But it's enough is enough of the outside stuff. It's not bashing what's going on. It's about, I need to be in a spot where my time is spent intentionally.
Right.
And we welcome all different vocations in here because being naturally inquisitive, creatives are naturally inquisitive. There's something exciting about meeting somebody. Like I was chatting with people earlier today that are in this space, but we met at a Mopar event in Texas, and they work in aftermarket textile, carbon fiber. They're still creatives, and they still would love having a conversation with you because we just can't help it. We're all on that same wheel, and there's something really wonderful about that. And they're also mommies and daddies, and there's other. It's the whole package. And
Yeah.
I think in a mad dash world, we don't have the opportunity to really sit in that enough, but in spaces like this, we can.
Yeah, and that's why I commend you for doing that. People talk about doing things but don't actually do it, or maybe they just need a push or a hand to pull them up and be like, "Hey, come on, let's go do this thing together." And so, I haven't been as active in the community as I would like to be, but I have it bookmarked, and I want to be, put in more conscious effort. To be a part of the community and certainly share it around with people, because I think that there's plenty of people out there that are still kind of floating or feeling like, there was a woman that I interviewed who I saw some of her posts on LinkedIn, and I was like, this woman is hysterical. She's creative and funny. And I reached out to her, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll come on the podcast." And so it was a great thing. But she's still doing her thing on LinkedIn where, but still has not been able to land a job. And so it's hard. People are going through a lot right now. And I felt like it was an important thing to try to continue to do the flame. And that was I mentioned the idea. It sounds kind of corny, the name of the podcast, but the idea was that how do you, it's one thing to have the spark of an idea, but how do you keep the fire going? What is it that burns within you, in your creativity?
I look at it, I love that you said that, because I always looked at it as I got this whole thermostat thermometer story, and I look at that fire as being the thermostat setting the temperature, not being the thermometer recording it. So when you walk in, you are intentionally building a fire. Let's have a moment. Let's break bread. But we're setting the temperature here. Love it. We're being the thermometer. Or that's what I think of when I think of the flame. And you could be like, that wasn't my idea at all, Scott. But it's all right. I'll give you a B. Because that's what's really wonderful, right? Like this. I mean, you already kind of alluded to it, but like that's what your idea meant to me. And it's going to mean something different to somebody else through their creative lens. But it's just like this space. I could tell you that I loved what you told me about this person. I don't know who this person is, but I would love to meet them, because what we're doing here is not a have and a have not. It's not a cohort or a course. It's a long game. It's a relationship. It's an opportunity to be intentional with our time. And so much, not the have and have not, that there are scholarships if needed. There are student rates if needed. There are I will meet you where you are type of a thing, because I think everybody deserves to have a spot where we can grow. Everybody has to get off of the darn highway and pull into the rest area and just take a flip and beat, because those open networks I feel like it's the George Jetson conveyor belt.
Right.
I wake up in the morning and I need to have 35 to 45 minutes every morning without touching anything.
Yeah.
Just a cup of coffee.
Yeah. I've been forcing myself to do that, right? To like get up, don't worry about anything, but just sit, have a cup of coffee and relax, and don't put that stuff into your brain before you have a chance to do any to use it the right way, right? To just wake up, allow yourself to wake up into the world and like have some reflection and check out the weather. Just that's your time. You can't wake up and have like the stream of information hitting you from the time you wake up.
That's right. I mean, I've seen people that their light is green on that network, and I get up in the morning, and when I finally get back on there, their light is green. I'm like, have they been outside? That was what my video was kind of about, like that you commented and shared on today. It's like there are people that this is just what they're doing. and they're like information farming all day long, trying to
Mhm.
build a follower count. But unless you're converting it, I would rather have 3 people and run it in down the field for a touchdown than have a stadium full of ghosts. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Not converting in terms of I got to make money, I got to make money. No, I love the relationship. Those are the things that matter. Like when you were speaking earlier, it's like once you have somebody in your agency as a partner, a working client, you want to keep them there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, it really is all about that relationship, and that's one of the things that um, I enjoy the most about the podcast, and then certainly being a business owner is being able to build those relationships.
Yeah, and also speaking to other business owners, like
Yeah.
we're both creatives. What works for you? Or you ever work with a person like, and chances are I'm going to say, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've had to fire partners before. You've had to fire? Oh yeah, I just know I'm not their person. They've micromanaged me to death. I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't think I'm your person. Go watch a YouTube video on how to create it. I think you might be happier. But those things do happen. Um, yeah, you know, when you mentioned again, going back to that person, everybody always has somebody that comes to mind. We all, like you could say, I know somebody and I think they would gain something from being a part of what we are doing here.
Hmm.
So and we also know the people that would take all the air out of the room, that care about the follower count. Don't you know who I am? And that's what's wonderful about this space is you would be so surprised with the level, caliber of resume in here. But when you remove all that because no one is here for that, we happen to find each other like you and I found each other. We're on that same, we're done with that. Let's do this other thing instead. Let's win as a team.
Right.
And when you can grow spaces like what you're doing with the flame, you grow. Maybe what will happen with you is, you create also a network pool within that space too. Because you're having a genuine conversation.
Right. Yeah, and that's my hope, is that it can help somebody connect
Yeah,
to somebody else, right? Maybe I interview somebody and you see that interview, much like I did with Rod. Like I, never heard of him before, saw him on the podcast, and now have that connection. And so,
yeah,
that's what I'm hoping to be able to do with the flame is, hope maybe I can help somebody get a job. Maybe I can help somebody connect. They'll see, you Bob interviewed this woman from Oklahoma that has a branding agency, and man, I would love to work with her. And then you reach out to that person, or it's like that kind of a thing. And so, hoping that I can build connection and build community in that way. Um, so it makes me want to continue to do it, because so many people will start a podcast and get 3 episodes in and then stop for whatever reason.
yeah, yeah. I'll tell you, like this thing that I'm doing right here. If you told me 2 years ago, hey, you're going to be like growing this thing and doing, I would have said, you're out of your mind. Because I would talk to myself. I'll look over like I'm over there, like you're nuts. No, it had to happen because it wasn't going to leave me alone. It's about doing good works.
Hmm.
You get it? You know what I mean when I say good works? It's about doing good works and relational. And I feel like when we're young, in our teens, 20s, whatever, you're young and bulletproof and you want to move fast. It's not like the hustle bro culture that we see. That's cringe. I wasn't a hustle bro even back then. I just loved sweat equity and working really hard. But there's this point where you stop and you're like, I think I can help that person, or I think I can introduce somebody to such and such. And you send the elevator down. But again, I am that sweat equity person, and maybe you are too. Like, I'm going to let you walk a couple of flights of stairs first. I'm not going to send the elevator all the way down. But I do want to bring you up, right? Show your character. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what surprises me is like how how willing people are to help you. And you
Yeah.
just have to ask. How willing people, we're afraid to ask, we're afraid to reach out, we're afraid to um, connect with people, but everybody's looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be feel like they can help somebody. Everybody, I feel like people are inherently kind. I try to teach my kids to lead with kindness.
Sure.
And so, and certainly what you put out into the world comes back to you. So
You were just reading my mind. That's right. And you say people want to help. I like to think that helpers find helpers.
yeah,
Because, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I'm not saying that's the only case, because I've been surprised. But when we do put it out there, you give off a frequency and you find like people, you know? You and I have had some overlaps because you were chatting with one woman who works abroad and she runs, and I ended up having an interview with her, and it
right.
was a real. She interviewed me. I didn't interview her. She interviewed, and it was brilliant. It was wonderful. It was listening to just listening to her talk and how she phrases stuff culturally different than an American, with poise and all of
Yeah.
that. We're kind of renegades over here, or at least I am.
Cavemen.
Yeah, but it's all good. It's all good. So let me ask you, in closing, because here we are, and these always go fast, and I always find that it's like on the second half of it, that's when everybody is warmed up and everything is cooking really good, the conversation. Right. But that's what it's about exploring, is the willingness to get out and explore. And you already kind of unpacked it, but if you could do it for me again, what does a space like iAiAM mean to you? Or what is, and even speaking to the flame, but what do these types of spaces mean to you?
I think for me, it's about that personal connection. It's finding a space where you feel like you can have support and because your family, they may know what you do, but they don't know what you go through on a
Sure.
daily basis. And it's about finding people that you can talk shop with and have an understanding in you don't want to say safe space, because that sounds, whatever, but it's a space where you can feel like you can just be yourself, share things, get feedback, because when you're not in person with people, and the majority of the time now as creatives, I think we're not in person anymore. And having, knowing that I can, I've got the iAiAM bookmarked and I can hop in there anytime and throw something out there or ask for a recommendation, or,
Sure.
it offers a level of comfort that there is a space outside of the networks where it's just a sea. You're now coming down into the small pond where you can, it's quality over quantity, and that's really kind of what it means to me, to feel like I've got some camaraderie out there, and I just like making connections and like making new friends.
I think that's really awesome. I love the camaraderie part. We have people in here that can be doing something like this, and the next thing you know, there's a mentor mentee. There's actually just like people checking in on one another because there's a connection that happens, and the next thing you know, they're calling one another, literally checking for the greater good of, because it's the right thing to do, and you care about these people. You're in Pennsylvania. How far are you? I'm Massachusetts. Like, how far are you from Boston? Like, pretty far.
It's probably like a 7-8 hour drive up to Boston for me.
That's a long tour. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I've been to Stowe before. We drove straight through, so that took about 9 hours.
yeah.
To Stowe. We did a family vacation in Stowe. We love Vermont.
So, like,
I love the whole New England.
Schenectady. How far are you from Schenectady?
Schenectady? I have no idea how far I am from Schenectady.
Albany.
Albany's far. I'm about 4 hours from the Finger Lakes. So then Albany and Syracuse is another several hours from that. So
I'm just trying to figure out how far west you are in Pennsylvania, because you never know.
Oh, I'm in the southeast. I'm in Philly suburbs, so I'm about as far southeast as you can get.
Okay. All right. Because, we got some people in Massachusetts. We might have somebody in South Africa coming here pretty soon.
Cool.
And that'd be kind of far for an IRL, but I guess we could all get in a canoe and start paddling across the Atlantic. But it'd be kind of neat if we can pull something like that off one day, where it's like, let's have a retreat weekend. And it'd really be, because, there's going to come a time when you meet people and we're kind of doing life right here, an hour of life together. And I can only imagine what it'll be like one day if we can facilitate and make an in real life opportunity happen. Like, it'd be crazy,
Yeah, it'd be cool. I like the idea of a retreat in the Finger Lakes. You get some good wine, you got some racing there if you want to partake in Watkins Glen, if you guys, you car guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be cool.
We'll have to put a pin in that, and you're always learning all these new things. Between now and then, you might be like, hey, Scott, I got my helicopter license. Where do you want me to meet you?
I'm not getting any helicopters anytime soon.
No helicopter license.
No, I love a good road trip. I've been, we were up in Maine and Rhode Island and Vermont, and the only one we haven't done yet is New Hampshire. So,
You know what they say about New Hampshire? It's got a beautiful view of Vermont.
Spoken like a true Vermonter.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm originally from New York. I'm originally from Schenectady, Albany area,
Okay.
Saratoga. That's where I'm from. So you can't get the Empire blood out of me.
No.
But, so when I go to New York and I see Welcome to the Empire State, it's next door to Vermont. My chest fills up with air. It's really great. And then when I come back to Vermont, welcome back to the Green Mountain State, I get the same thing. So I always tell my kids that daddy's got dual citizenship, and it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's nice. It's really good. Hey, man, thank you so much for this interview. And we're going to be doing this again. I can feel a part two. I can feel a part two in my bones.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was great to talk. And thank you so much for having me on, and definitely want to do it again.
Yeah. And hey, whenever we flip, you just put out the calling card and I'll come running.
You got it.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Have a great night.
You too.